The Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience. Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, the Northern Trust DraftKings picks and preview. Please, everyone out there, give the episode a like, leave your DK handle in the comment section, and give me your single favorite play from below $7,000 for this week, because that may come in handy if you're building some stars and scrubs rosters. Go back yesterday and check out the full betting preview with myself, Jeff Feinberg. The cheat sheet and full course breakdown are up on DKPlaybook.com. My betting cheat sheet will be released Wednesday afternoon on my Facebook page, facebook.com/ThePME. And the live chat, it's back. Myself, Reed Fowler, 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on the DraftKings YouTube channel. Bring yourself, bring your questions, and we got answers. Probably not correct answers, but we'll respond to them or mock you for terrible questions. Always bring in the fun on the Pat Mayo Experience. And since I'm so awful at this, I got to bring in the good guest, returning to the show for the first time in a while from FantasyGolfInsider.com. It is Jeff Bergerson. What's going on?
Not too much. I'm doing well, Pat. I am excited for this 4-week stretch here. I really like the FedEx Cup playoffs. I think it's a good add to the tour. I'm excited for it. How about you?
I'm going to be more excited for it next year, because I always get myself drawn out of it the moment football starts, and it kind of minimizes the impact of the Tour Championship. Like, the winner gets $10 million, and like it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, and it should be a big deal.
Yeah, I think the money is just so out of hand on the PGA Tour that these guys week in and week out, like, guys are skipping this week. They have a chance of winning like over $1 million, and they're going to skip it, you know?
I mean, I can see that, though. Like, is someone like Rory, and even Ricky to this point, where he's going to miss, like, probably the next 2 weeks. He might even come back for the BMW. Like, I think it doesn't necessarily make sense for those guys, but I get it. They're going to make it through to the third leg anyway, perform well there, you have a chance to win it all. But, like, why is Patrick Rogers not playing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why he wouldn't be playing.
Yeah, it seems really bizarre to me. But anyway, I really love this stretch, and next year it's moving to August, so it's going to be completed before the beginning of the NFL, which I just think is a far more sensible move.
I think so, too. Yeah, too much attention goes away from golf once football begins, so this will be good because then they can really highlight it.
All right, so let's get into the field for the Northern Trust. There's only 120 players in the field now. 125 are eligible to play. It's at Ridgewood Country Club, last played as the Barclays in this spot in 2014. Hunter Mahan was the winner, played in 2010. Matt Kuchar was the winner. 2008, Vijay Singh was the winner. First thoughts on the course, Jeff. It's a par 71. It's over 7,300 yards. It's long. The rough played 3.5 inches last time it was here, so you want to be finding the fairways, and it's tree lined with really, really tiny greens. I threw it out there that I think the Kuchar template, that style of player, accurate off the tee, pretty good with a bit deeper irons, great scrambler, very positive putter, is the template. Obviously, Kuchar's sort of like the peak of that, unless you want to say that Brooks Koepka's that guy now, because he kind of is, just a lot better than Kuchar. But like that Kevin Streelman types, the Griot types, do you think those are the best types of players to go after, or are you going to take the bomb and gouge type guys?
You know, I think it's a combination. It's interesting. I always go on the PGA Tour website and do like the course tour where it talks about each individual hole and everything. And I went back there to kind of refresh, since it's been a few years since Ridgewood hosted. And I walked through it, and the course that kind of struck me as a similar course is Riviera, surprisingly. Both par 71s, about the same length, tree lined, looks kind of similar. POA greens, and then you see a mixture of kind of bombers, but also accuracy guys playing well there. So I kind of use that as a decent comparison as well. Bethpage Black is also a decent comparison. If you look back, same designer, same type of length, same proximity to Ridgewood too. So I think that's a decent comparison as well. I really think it is a combination. The Bombers have gotten pretty accurate, and this is a course where they're going to be able to club down a little bit. So you're going to see guys using iron off the tee just for position purposes, and 3-wood and 5-wood as well. So it's not exactly a Bombers course, But I think the extra length for the long hitters off the tee with the lesser club will be an advantage. So I think you will see a mixture.
Do you think it's disappointing that Henrik Stenson withdrew, because this seems like a perfectly tailored course for him?
Exactly. That's kind of him. I look at him. I look at like Gary Woodland's another guy who I kind of think would fit really well for this course.
The two that I was looking at, because I always do the same thing every week too. I either try to search the course itself, because sometimes they have like drone flyovers. I couldn't find any for this, but like Jersey.com had one out. Then I went to the PGA Tour site and just really walked through hole by hole to see what it looked like. And well, the course looks nothing like Ridgewood. I think that the strategy off the tee for Honda at PGA National is something that's going to be very similar, because you can't veer too far off the beaten path at Honda, because you're going to be in the water. Here, you're just going to be in the woods.
Right.
And
yeah, I can see that. There's trouble. There's probably more trouble at Honda, but you're right. You do need the accuracy. But, I mean, you got guys like Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka. Those guys are accurate as well, or they can be. So people define them as bombers. I don't know. I just think they're just tremendous players, and they can be accurate most of the time.
So what do we do in terms of lineup construction? The first thing that you notice, because with these FedEx Cup playoffs, outside of Scheifele, 11 of the past 12 winners have been inside the top 23 of the world rankings for all these playoff events. So it strikes me as an elite guy is going to win. Although the last time we were here, Hunter Mahan won. He was 80-1 coming in that week. Still, relatively highly ranked in the world, but not like an elite guy. Do you think that lends itself to stars and scrubs here? Because obviously with 120 players, top 70 and ties making the cut, you're going to get more people through than we've been seeing in an average week.
Yeah, last time at Ridgewood, you look at the leaderboards, and it wasn't the elite of the elite. Yeah. But I don't know. These days, the elite are really incredibly good. Back in, a decade ago or so, you didn't have these guys separating themselves from the field. There was a lot more parity. So I do think it lends itself to stars and scrubs. One of these high-priced guys are going to be winning it, and most of them are going to be in contention.
All right, let's talk about the 10K plus guys. There are 5 of them on the board. Obviously, I ran my model at fantasynational.com, and if you go to fantasynational.com right now, you can create your own model, your own mixed condition model. 1.9 million in winnings for Fantasy National members so far this season. Join the club right now. Let's get that over 2 million. The push for 2 million. See how that goes. But Dustin leads it off. He was number 1 across all ranges. 11-5, JT 11-2, Jason Day 10-7, Brooks Koepka 10-5, and Tiger Woods. For me, up here, I'm starting with Jason Day. He'll be my highest owned guy of this range. And I think I might end up on Justin Thomas next, because I think Day's going to be popular. Obviously, DJ is going to be popular. But for whatever reason, people just don't get behind Justin Thomas ever, regardless of the price.
Very true. I'm going to lean toward Dustin Johnson. I think he will be popular, but I don't think it's going to be a huge disparity between any of these guys this week. I think probably low 20s will be the highest that any of them would be owned. They're just going to kind of spread out the ownership. I'm leaning toward Dustin, although, you do get a price break for Koepka or Jason Day, who I also like. I just like DJ a little bit more.
Well, the thing with Day for me, he has 2 solid finishes here at Ridgewood, which is, who knows? Maybe he was playing a lot better in 2014 than he is right now. But I really enjoyed the past few weeks that the approach has been getting a little bit better, because he's won 2 tournaments this year off the strength of his short game and his putter. And these greens are really small, and people aren't going to hit greens in regulation at like an 80% clip. Like, they're going to get in trouble on some of these holes. Who can avoid the bogeys? Who can scramble from greenside out of this thick rough? And I just keep coming back to Jason Day of all these guys at the top. Not to say that they're not good short game players, just Jason Day is the best.
I agree with you. I like Jason Day a lot as well. He's been playing really well, a couple wins this season, but consistently in or near the top 10, missing by a couple strokes from being in the final group. So I have nothing against Jason Day this week. I think his game fits really nicely as well.
Tiger Woods, he's above $10,000.
It's interesting. It's a little bit spendy for me on Tiger, and I can kind of see a letdown happening. He was all geared up for the PGA Championship, and to be honest, he finished higher than I thought he would, but it was fun to see him in contention. This week, I kind of like the other names around him a little bit better. I like Justin Rose a little bit better for cheaper. So I will probably not be on. I won't have any Tiger shares this week.
Yeah, I can't see myself having many Tiger shares, if any at all, on any of my teams. I'll probably be playing like 20 lineups and throwing it in, maybe 25 in the $5. But the way that we describe this course, doesn't it seem like this is where Tiger could compete? Because you say you don't have to hit driver, and I feel like any time that you can take driver out of Tiger's hands, and he can hit 3-wood, 5-wood, 2-iron, whatever it is, that he's going to end up playing really well, because I think he's just dominating everyone in approaches right now. And if he can hit the fairway, like he'll probably lead the field in greens and regulation.
Yeah, I think driving is pretty much his biggest and only weakness right now. So you take that out of play, and yes, I think he definitely can compete.
Like, should Tiger be the 5th highest priced guy on DraftKings? Like, should he be higher priced than Justin Rose realistically? No.
No, I would say probably not, which is kind of my problem with choosing him, is I think he should be probably a little bit less than Rose, maybe even Rahm.
All right, so you like DJ the best, I like Day the best. You would go to Day and Brooks after that, and where I would go to Justin Thomas?
Yes.
All right. $9,000 range. We got Justin Rose, Jon Rahm, Jordan Spieth, Francesco Molinari, Tommy Fleetwood, Webb Simpson, Brandt Snedeker coming off the win, coming off the 59. Beat the curse. Tim tried to lay it out there on him when he was up by 5. He almost gave it all back, couldn't do it. But again, this kind of seems like a course where Brandt Snedeker and Webb Simpson could both play pretty decently based on their style of game. Good putter, good short game. It's funny to mention Webb in a good putting conversation right now, but I'm kind of with you. I really like Rose here. I'm still concerned a little bit about the back, although it wasn't that big of an issue at the PGA Championship. He just didn't play all that well, although he saved himself with his putter a lot more than he had just was leading in ball striking, because he lost strokes on approaches. But I think that like Spieth and Molinari are two really interesting cases here, because on paper, I feel like this sets up really well for Molinari.
Yeah, and he's one of the hottest players in the world. 95 is probably a very fair price for where he's at right now, and he is a good fit. He's good with his long irons, which I think will suit him well here. I will probably be leaning toward Tommy Fleetwood at 9,400, and then go up to Rose and Rahm. So Molinari's kind of the left out guy in my core this week in the 9K range, but I think he's fine. Spieth, I'm still not ready. He let me down so many times early in the season when I thought he was going to bounce back on courses that fit him well and that he's done well on in the past. Looked good in his last time out, but I'm just not ready for Spieth yet.
It's strange with Spieth. Feinberg actually bet Spieth this week at 20-1. I was absolutely floored because he hates Spieth. But we're getting to the point now where he's no longer, maybe he is overpriced in the mid $9,000 area. Maybe Molinari and Fleetwood deserve to be higher priced. I mean, you could easily make that case. I'm not going to have much blowback against it, but this is the lowest price we've seen Jordan Spieth at in some time.
Yes, and he was owned by a very small part of the field in the PGA Championship, but his price, he was like the 3rd highest player, so he's very expensive. This week we get quite a discount at 96, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to snap back, and we're going to see Jordan Spieth of old at some point. It's just hard to predict when that's going to happen. I've thought it's going to happen a few times now, and I haven't been right. So I'm just not sure, and I like the other guys around him better just because of their form.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Molinari than Rose. I'm just going to bite the bullet and concede to Mike Leone that he was probably right. And I like the skill set for Molinari here. I like the skill set for Rose here. We talk about those guys that are both long and straight. You mentioned Fleetwood. He's definitely one of those guys. I feel like Rose is sort of like the step ahead of Fleetwood. He gets less crazy with some of his shots. He doesn't seem to have those blow-up rounds like Tommy does every now and then. He doesn't normally go as low, but I trust the short game for Rose to get himself at a treble as opposed to Tommy, who is just all over the place when it comes to chipping. He's either like the best in the field or the worst in the field. Like how we judge putting with most guys, that's what Tommy's short game is like. But the two right below him, Webb and Snedeker, I don't know how much ownership that they're going to carry next to these really big names. And if people play the Stars and Scrubs lineup, they're going to go really high and they're going to go really low, and I think they'll probably go to Fleetwood, and that's where they'll stop. Like in any sort of build, they probably won't end up with a ton of Webb or Snedeker, but I'm sort of interested in both of them, but I can't figure out which one I like more. It might be Webb because I know he can hit fairways, and I don't know if Brandt can do that all the best, but do you have interest in those two guys?
I do. I think Webb Simpson's kind of underrated. And when people look at him at first glance up in this 9K range in an elite field, it's kind of like, whoa, he's overpriced. But really, compared to where he's playing right now, the level, I think it's a reasonable price. His putting is on point this season. His iron game is great. His approach game is great. Even off the tee is good. So I do like Simpson. I've been on him all year. In good and bad. Snedeker, not so much. He's been a little bit more up and down. Coming off the win, you never know. Even a veteran, you don't know how they're going to react. So I'm okay not going on Snedeker, especially if he's going to have – well, he'll have more owners than last week. He was only owned by about 5% of GPP fields just because of the price was so large for him, even though it was a weak field last week. But I think he'll probably have 10% ownership this week. So I would probably elect to go with Webb Simpson.
Who do you think will be more owned, Rahm or Spieth?
I think Rahm will be owned by a couple more percent, but it'll be pretty close.
But do you think that they'll be the two lower owned guys of the elite 10 that we're seeing? Like, would Molinari be the next guy in that mix that no one's going to own? Not no one's going to own, but like 7 to 10% kind of thing?
Right. Yep. And I think Spieth will probably be at about 10. Maybe he'll get a little bit of a boost, but I think Rahm will probably be at 13 or so.
All right. $8,000 area. Adam Scott leads it off, coming off pretty good PGA Championship. Withdrew with the Wyndham because, hey, why do I need to play the Wyndham? I just came inside the top 5 of the PGA Championship. But he has a good track record at this course the last 2 times that they've been here. So it goes Scott at 8-9, Hideki, Zach Johnson, Cantlay, Finau, Reed, Casey, Kuchar, Hatton, Bubba Watson. I feel like Bubba Watson is $8,000 every single week. And I'm going to try my best not to take him here because I don't feel like this is the best setup for him. But I like, people are on Hideki a little bit now because the around the green game has been there all along, but now the irons and ball striking are starting to come back. Hard to see if he's ever going to putt, but hey, you never know. I like Patrick Reed a lot here. I like Patrick Cantlay a lot, and I like Tyrrell Hatton. Those would be my 3 guys from the $8,000 range. Where are you looking?
I like those guys as well. What scares me about Adam Scott is I like him.
Me too.
That's really scary because his price doesn't look great. He looked great, obviously, at the PGA Championship, but I generally try and steer clear of Adam Scott. Hideki interests me quite a bit. It's very intriguing because we know he's an elite player in the world. When that form is going to come back, have we seen signs? I think so. He's always going to be good. Tee to green, it's putting, but we've seen that kick in on certain weeks where it's just like, wow, where did Hideki find his putting? So I'm okay spending $8,800 for the amount of upside that he offers. I like Cantlay. Finau will be kind of the lightning rod for ownership in the 8K range, as he always is in these type of fields. I'm with you with Patrick Reed. I like him quite a bit this week, and I think that's a very good price.
What about like the Paul Caseys and the Matt Kuchars? Like Kuchar's played really well at Ridgewood over the years. I kind of cited him as the prototypical player that would play excellent at this track. Like, any interest in him, or is it just have we turned the corner on Matt Kuchar that unless he's like 7,500, don't play him when he starts sneaking into this range? It's like, well, the other guys around him are just better.
I kind of have turned the page on Kuchar this year. Before, I could always say, well, yeah, his upside, he's probably not going to win, but heck, he's going to give us a top 15 almost every time out, and he's for sure going to make the cut. Well, that's not the case either one this year. So I'm like, well, if we don't have the upside and we don't have the certainty of him making the cut and the probable top 15, then what's the point of rostering him? His good tournament history at this course could attract some ownership in just his name. So I'm okay steering clear. I would just as soon go with the other guys that we already talked about than Kuch.
Zach Johnson, I mean, he's sort of like a sort of prototypical Kuchar type player. He hits fewer fairways, at least lately, but the short game's really good. He putts better on bent grass, and he seems to like these elevated fields more so than the scrub events.
Does the price seem a little bit high for him in this field, though, Pat?
It does, but like I feel like everyone's going to talk themselves into Scott, into Hideki, and Cantlay, and Finau, and Reed. That I can just see Zach Johnson sitting there at 8,700 with like 5% ownership.
Yeah, it could be.
And I don't hate him. Like, if I hated him, I wouldn't care what his ownership was, and I would just fade him anyway. But in this circumstance, that if he's going to come in super low owned, like, I don't think he's significantly worse than any of these guys.
I don't either. He hasn't shown a tremendous amount of upside, as he usually doesn't. So I'm okay at that price. Now, if he's, in the high sevens, it's a little bit more intriguing. But I would rather go with Cantlay or Hideki, who I at least think have higher upside than Zach.
Yeah, potentially so. There are 76 bunkers at this course to just one water trap. I mean, normally that would worry me with Cantlay, but I feel like he's figured that out a little bit this season.
I do too.
It's no longer just, oh no, he's in the bunker, automatic bogey. And now he can make a par from time to time. Maybe he'll chip in every now and then. Who knows? $7,000 range. This is where obviously it's going to be key. We talked about stars and scrubs, but even if you wanted to build a Dustin Johnson, $8,000 guy and go to like the lower sevens, that build is on the table as well. So we're looking at it. We got Noren at 7-9 along with Rafa Cabrera Bello, Xander, Leishman, Woodland, Louis, Poulter, Kevin Na. That's down to $7,600. And then we're looking at guys like Stuart Sink, Brennan Grace, Ryan Moore, Ben Ann, Bryson. I can't figure out which one I like the best in this range, but I kind of like Na, and I really like Ryan Moore. I just really hope he can make a 4-foot putt this week.
That's a lot for you to say you really like Ryan Moore, Pat.
And I'm not really a Ryan Moore type of guy, but I like the way that he's been playing, and I think that course fit for here. He's good with his wedges, but he's also like good at his longish irons. He's really good around the greens, and he's not going to put himself in a bunch of trouble. Like if we can sneak not even a hot putting week, not awful putting week out of him, he can be in the mix. I don't think that Ryan Moore is going to win by any means, but I think he could top 10 here.
He's been playing well. The 3 missed cuts here at this course are a little bit head scratching. Like how did that happen? I don't know his form in those years that he actually played here. It's a little bit concerning, but I kind of like him as well. It's funny in the 7K range, there's some guys from like a 3 or 4 week stretch. A few weeks ago, Rafa Cabrera Bello, no one wanted him at like 7,300. Now, after 3 good performances, he's at 7,900, and I kind of like him there. He's going to score. So I think he's a decent option. I mentioned Gary Woodland at the start of the show. I kind of like him. I like his fit for the course. He's trending in the right direction. He fell off the cliff after he won at Waste Management, but now he seems to have found his game. He's going to be able to hit 3-iron off the tee, and good approach game. His putting isn't the best. That's his biggest weakness, but if he finds that, I kind of like him this week at 7,700.
Can you get any love? Like Stuart Sink has played well at this course in the past. So was Kevin Na, and Kevin Na is another one. Fairway short game putting. Fairway short game putting, plus he has the approach to go along with it. He's sort of like, he's a lot like Ryan Moore, except he can just mentally melt down where Ryan Moore just can't putt. But I think those two guys you can throw them in the same boat, so I'll probably be using both of them.
I like them both as well. Sink is having a really good year. He's played well here in the past, and no one ever really owns him for the most part. So I'm okay with him at 7,500. Is there any way, if Louis plays, that you can own a few shares of Louis, Pat?
I never own Louis, so it's never really. I always find he falls into he's always in the Leishman range, and I always think between the two, I always take Leishman. But now that we're adding other names, like we didn't even talk about Noren. I think this is. I mean, I talked about Honda being a potential kind of cross course here. I mean, obviously he played really well there. I like what his skill set brings to this, and I think people forget that you can look at his numbers and his PGA stats, and they're pretty good. But like he just won in France, he's going to be on the Ryder Cup team. I think that he is a better player than maybe this pricing gives him credit for. Like I like Cabrera Bello too, but Noren's better than Cabrera Bello.
Yeah, a little bit. I kind of like them both at 79. I think that, they could easily be priced in that mid 8K range in this field. So I think you are getting a bargain on them.
So for me, no on Louis. There's also the Ryder Cup pressure for Ian Poulter. He needs like a top 15 to be he's going to be on the team, but he can be locked into the team if he ends up with a top 15 this week. And like skill set wise, I think that he's sort of a fit too.
And he has been really good this year. He crushed me at the Open Championship, but really that's his only slip up this whole year. He showed tremendous upside, hasn't missed a cut in months. and consistently is top 25. So yeah, I really like Poulter. Not sure what his ownership is going to look like. He's probably going to be a little bit more popular, probably mid to high teens.
Really?
I'm guessing. I think so. But there are a lot of options in this range. But so if we said 15%, I'm still happy owning him at 25%, being, 1.5 overweight on the field, maybe getting to 2 at 30.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the very early ownership projections from Fantasy National right now, projected out at 12.2%. So, I mean, if he starts getting some buzz, obviously that number can come up. So I'd say somewhere between like 11 and 15. If that's the case, then you got to be on him, right?
I think so. Yeah, I like him a lot this week.
And it seems like the ownership, like you mentioned, where there are so many sort of plays in this range that people are taking sort of a scattershot approach. Like no one tops 15%. Someone will top 15%, but right now the projections can't figure out who it's going to be. Like Woodland, Poulter, Ryan Moore, Stuart Sink, and Bryson and Billy Horschel are the ones generating a lot of ownership, but it's all about the same, and we just know that's not how it turns out. What do you make of Billy Horschel here? He's been playing a lot better, and he's another one of these guys that we've seen him get hot at this time of year before. If he could have made a putt last week, he actually would have competed. That didn't happen. But maybe it switches back again that, hey, we're on bent grass. You usually like him on Bermuda, but yeah, he's been a decent putter on bent in the past as well, that maybe Billy Horschel can come through for us here.
I'm not against it. I like him. I also like Kyle Stanley right below him, and I also like. Unfortunately, I'm a Bryson apologist.
Hey, I'm in. I am in on Bryson. You give me Bryson at $7,400. He's $1,000. Right. He's $1,000 underpriced. Like I get that people don't like him, but why is Cantlay? What the hell is Cantlay? $8,600 and Bryson $74. That doesn't even make sense.
Right, I know. And a couple of weeks ago, he blew up with a 75 in the first round, and I'm making excuses like, oh, okay, the next 3 rounds he shot progressively better on a tough course. So we're trending nicely. PGA Championship, not great, but I keep saying, yeah, Bryson, I like him week in and week out, and at 7,400, it seems like a real bargain.
The other guy that I wanted to talk about, $7,400. We all liked him like 2 weeks ago, and then everyone kind of jumped off the train. But this, if we talk about like the Gary Woodland type skill set, and obviously Woodland's playing a little bit better right now, but I think that Ben Ann is someone that could be really live here. Like he's won at Wentworth, do you think Wentworth could be a decent corollary course for here?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's reasonable.
So, and that's an elite field. It's tree lined. You need to be very precise. You need to have a good short game. And Ben Ann has won there, and the short game hasn't gone away. The ball striking hasn't gone away. We just know about the putting woes. But I think he's going to come in at like 2% ownership. I would play him over Horschel just because I know people are sort of on Horschel. I like Moore and Bryson a little bit better, but I think I might have equal shares of Ben Ann this week.
Yeah, the beauty of that is you don't have to own a lot to be massively overweight. So if he comes in at 2% and you own 6% of them, which isn't a huge investment, you're going to be triple the field. I like guys like that who maybe haven't played great in their last couple of times out, and people have just scattered from the bandwagon. And then it's a great time to jump back on.
So the rest of the guys from down here, obviously I'll play a share or two of Luke List, a guy who lost in a playoff at Honda. And if that, I mean, that's really the only reason I mentioned Honda, just so I could promote Luke List this week. But hey, you can look at Heritage as well as probably an easier course than this, but a similar sort of design and sort of small greens, tree line. List played really well there too. So if he can club down a little bit, he is one of those guys that can really increase his accuracy very quickly. And he actually has an awesome short game, which I think people overlook. Problem is, if he doesn't put it to 3 inches, he's probably going to 3-putt. But so yeah. I'm going to play List. Brian Gay, I'm just going to ride some form on. Another accurate type of player who's a hot putter and really dialed in with his approaches. And I'm going with Kisner. Nothing would lead you to Kisner outside of his major performances, but I think that he is the proper skill set for this type of course. He likes to raise his game in these fields. And I like him when he has to play at not a super duper long course, but one where he can use his scrambling to his advantage. He's very good from around the greens. He's a really good putter, and he plays these long irons really well. Like Kevin Kisner in a wedge fest can work, but Kevin Kisner, where not everyone can hit wedges into holes, can also work at the same time. So I'm rolling the dice on Kevin Kisner a little bit.
Overall, he has not had a very good season.
No, he's been awful.
Yeah, and in the majors he's done well, and you just expect him to be better. So getting him at 7,300, I think, is a pretty good time to get him. Maybe he is. He's trending in his last 2 events, so possibly he is coming back into form, and it wouldn't be a bad time or a bad course for him.
Can we get back on CT Pan at $7,000?
CT Pan, I like a lot on certain courses. I loved him last week, and he let me down. But still, a runner-up finish at his price. I specifically look for super tight fairways and greens. This is a little bit longer course, so I think the guys who hit it farther are going to have an edge over CT Pan. So I don't like him as much this week. You also don't know about that emotional letdown. Is he going to have one? He seems like a pretty even keel guy. Anyone who can have his wife carry his bag for him, I personally couldn't. I would probably lose my mind. But he kept his composure even when he shanks off the tee. It looked like he was keeping it with it. So possibly, but I kind of worry about that, the bounce back from last week.
Yeah, I have my worries about it too. We talked about Adam Scott, how we both kind of like him, just don't like the price. What if we just take Adam Scott at $2,000 cheaper and take Keegan?
Yes.
You're in. Yep. You're just in on Keegan.
I am. I'm okay on Keegan. Yeah, I do like him. He's probably one of my favorite guys down in this range as far as price goes.
All right, so let's talk about the $6,000 level to see if we can even out some of these stars and scrubs builds. So again, give the episode a like, go to the comment section, leave your DK handle in your favorite play in the $6,000 area for the Northern Trust for DraftKings this week. Just certain names kind of pop out because you get a mix of like your guys who just made the playoffs, your hotter form type players, but there's like actually good guys down here. Like I love JJ Spawn and I love Harold Varner and Streelman and these guys. Like I know it's been a roller coaster of a year, but can you talk me out of playing Kevin Chappell at 69? Like compared to these guys, he's way better.
Kevin Chappell, I'm out.
I'm in on Chappell. If I'm gonna like Jason Day, I gotta like Kevin Chappell too.
I suppose you're right. He's not had a good season as well. Him and Kevin Kisner, both high quality players that you expect more out of. Hasn't been good. I would elect to go with a guy like Chris Kirk or even Charlie Hoffman at 6,800. I think he plays well in good fields. So I'll be going with Charlie Hoffman. And you can cut that clip and paste it on next week's show, TPC Boston, because I will like him there as well.
Charlie Hoffman or Keegan Bradley or both?
Or both, especially Charlie.
I did kind of gloss over Emiliano Grillo, who is another sort of fairways, irons, pretty decent putter too, especially on bent. Do you have any interest in him at 7,000?
Kind of, and his ownership won't be much either. It'll be under 5%. So yes, I kind of do. He's let me down a few times this year where I've really liked him on particular courses. But yeah, I will have some shares.
So the ownership that I'm looking at from this range right now, at least projected by Fantasy National, Keegan I have above 10%. Probably won't end up being there, but people who are using the system see him rate out really well, so they're plugging them into lineup. CT Pan, Chris Kirk, who you mentioned at 10%, and the big one, can we play Joel Dahman? Like, is this field too big for Joel Dahman? Because he rates out exceptionally well.
I think he's going to have some owners too, because people see the record, they see his rolling stats, but you have to keep in mind that those rolling stats are not comparative to the other guys in this field. He didn't play at WGC, didn't play PGA Championship, hasn't played the majors, so you're taking his stats and his results from John Deere, Barracuda, Barbasol, Greenbrier, things like that. So you're kind of not comparing apples to apples there. And if he's going to be heavily owned, I can easily fade him. He has been playing well. There's no doubt about that. And he could compete. I just think it's a decent fade if he's going to be 10% owned down in this range.
Yeah, so his past 4 events, his past 5 events, he has 5 top 25s, he has 3 top 10s, 4 top 15s. 8th at the Canadian Open, 15th at Barbasol, 2nd at John Deere, 5th at Greenbrier, 23rd at Quicken Loans. And he's been like lights out ball striking in every single one of those events. But like you mentioned, that's compared to the field of that week. I think that if he cracks double digits, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and just fade. I'll play Andrew Landry instead, or Austin Cook, or someone like that.
Yep.
Do you have favorites from down here? Like besides, like, do you like Landry or Cook? Because I kind of do. But like other than that, McGirt's playing a little bit better.
Yeah, I liked McGirt last week. He's been playing okay, although he's playing through an injury. He's going to have surgery in the offseason. We know that. People have been concerned about that. But he's been playing through it, and he's been playing well. I do like Cook a little bit in this range. People are going to look toward the names like a Brendan Steele, who's just been playing just terrible, having a bad second half of this season now. I would probably go with Bo Hostler. I would own some shares there, but I don't like a ton of guys below that 67, 6,600 range. I would probably do Hostler and Cook, and I could see Landry as well.
I guess the only last guy to talk about, it's tough to talk about these guys in context of them winning because they're not going to win. So right. Can they come inside the top 20? Can they sneak out a top 10? What about Putnam?
Yeah, he's been playing. He's got the best form of anyone in this range. He's been playing really well. Will it translate to this field? We'll see. And that's the thing. If you're playing a lot of teams in that $5 GPP on DraftKings, you're going to have all of your guys in the top 20 for sure, if not the top 15. So you have to be careful not to pick out too many guys in this low 6K range, because the chances of few of them all placing in the top 15 is very, very small. There certainly will be a couple guys in the top 20 down here. But, the more you include in your core, the more you include on your rosters, the lower probability it is to happen. But Andrew Putnam, I can see owning. He's one of the few guys in this low range that I could own.
I'm with you on Hostler. I really like Hostler. I like Putnam as well. Like I mentioned, I'm going to be in on Kevin Chappell. I might take a few scatter shots on, like I said, the Cooks, the Landrys, guys that I just kind of correlate as similar type players of ones I really want to focus on. I guess the last one would be Ryan Armour, potentially Sam Ryder. But I did want to go back to Putnam for a second. Last 3 starts, 8th at the Canadian Open. He won the Barracuda, I want to say it was. And then he was 59th at the PGA Championship. But I feel like that's misleading. If you actually look at his numbers from the PGA Championship, he gained off the tee, gained around the greens, gained on approach, and lost 5 strokes putting. That's atypical for him.
Yeah, those are great stats. I like that a lot. That's very encouraging for him. So yeah, I will definitely own it, and he'll be owned at a handful of shares, or a handful of percentage in the field. So you could easily be overweight at 8%.
I know that we don't really look at putting all that much, but I think it's more influential this week than maybe any other this season.
I can see that. Yeah. So you say that, Pat. There's a couple of names down even further. Big names, low price, bad form, good putters. Brian Harman, Adam Hadwin.
Hadwin, I think that I would have more interest in. I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's Canadian. Who knows? I just think that when he gets hot, he gets super hot, and he can kind of come out of nowhere. I feel like with Harman, we usually see it coming. Like he ramps up to a really nice finish, where Hadwin's just kind of scattershot. I don't know if I like them all that much, but like I had interest in Lahiri, and I think that from a skill set perspective, Ryan Armour he kind of rates out as the type of player that I would want here. I worry that the course is a bit too long for him, though.
I always like Armour on courses that I like CT Pan, because I think they're the same type of accuracy type player, lacking a lot of distance, but ultra accurate. So if you like CT Pan, then I would definitely go with Ryan Armour as well.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at like the top putters over the past 24 rounds from down here. Ollie, Hostler, Lahiri, shockingly enough, has been putting the lights out. Do we just ride form with Lahiri? Because I mean, if there's gonna be so many par 4s on the course, Lahiri is a player that can dominate those and get super hot.
Yep, I'm okay with Lahiri.
All right, yeah. So I'm continuing to look down. I guess like the only other really good putter from down there is like Wee Kim. But I don't want to play him. So yeah, so when we to kind of go back to the top and talk about the types of build, you say you don't want to play too many players in the $6,000 range. So what would a team look like for you if it started with Dustin Johnson? Dustin Johnson, what's the next player on that team? Is it someone in the $9,000 area, or are you hitting that like Hideki range right away and then building with a core of like mid $7,000 guys to fill out your team so you don't have to go into the 6s?
Yeah, so starting with Dustin Johnson, then you could go to a guy. I think going with another 9K guy, even though I like Rose quite a bit, I think you're depleting yourself a little bit too much. So I'd drop down to the mid 8K range, where I like a couple of guys and maybe do like a Patrick Reed and then you'd have mid 7Ks for the rest, the 4 other guys on your roster. The other thing you could do is just a Dustin Johnson, and then the rest in that high 7K range with like Norin and Rafa and Poulter and guys like that. That could fill out a pretty nice roster as well. I like dropping down if you go with the 9K guys, depleting a little bit too much if you pair them with DJ. But now if you drop down to Day, you have a little bit more flexibility. Or even if you start with Justin Rose, then you could actually get 2 9K guys on your squad and drop down to that low 8, high 7 mark too.
Yeah, if you started with Justin Rose or even just started in the $9,000 area, let's say you went with like Rose, Molinari, Webb, like you could still just drop to 3 more of those upper $7,000 guys. I think that's a pretty good build.
I do too. And I think you've got 6 guys who can conceivably win it too when you stay in that high 7K range. Once you get to the low 7 and high 6, you're kind of losing probability of guys winning it. But why couldn't Alex Noren go out and win this week in the 7K range? Why couldn't Patrick Reed in the low 8 or Paul Casey or someone like that go out and win?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. All right, that'll do it for the Northern Trust DraftKings picks and preview the Northern Trust DraftKings picks and preview. Jeff, tell us what's going on at fantasygolfinsider.com and what you have in store for the football and MMA season.
Yeah, last year we had a tremendous feedback from our members because we offered a ton of football stuff, tools, research materials, lineup generator, projections. Zach does a cash game article. I do a GPP article every week of the football season because we know that the fields aren't as stacked for the golf events. We still cover them. We still do just as much and load the tools and everything for the fall. The interest just is a little bit less. So we do football as well as complimentary, completely free to our Edge package members. So you just get that as an add-on. We're excited for football. We're football guys as well as golf. Those are our 2 sports. I've already put out a couple articles on football, just kind of leading into season-long drafts to help folks out, guide them in their drafts coming up probably this weekend. So we're real excited about it, and we love this time of year.
Yeah, was it last year or the year before you cashed the 100K in football?
2 years ago, it was week 1. Actually.
Yeah.
It took like 6th in the big Millionaire Maker. There was like over 1 million people in it. So yeah, it was like $120,000 cash. Last year, I was fortunate enough to make the live final, which was awesome. I would love to do that again in Miami, and probably see you down there, Pat. That's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I just hosted the Fantasy Baseball World Championship. See, I think I did a good enough job that they'll invite me back for the football. And the fact that I actually know something about football as opposed to baseball, I have to think that would help, if nothing else.
And Miami in December is a pretty good place.
Yeah, I can work on my tan. It'll be perfect.
Right.
Although you're gonna be very upset when I show up in like a thong because I just got to fit in with what's going on down in Miami. That's the style down there.
Yeah, us northern guys got to put on a lot of sunscreen in December. Although I'm north of you, being in Minneapolis, which I know always makes you laugh.
It does, because no one ever thinks of it that they're like, oh, Toronto. Toronto is the most northern place in the world. It's so snowy. And every time I fly to Minneapolis, I look at the map. It's like Minneapolis is north of Toronto by like a reasonable margin.
That was funny for the Super Bowl. You were like, oh my God, it's cold here. I'm like, what? You come from Canada? What the heck?
Yeah, it was like 20 degrees of difference between Minneapolis. Like it was freezing during Super Bowl week in Minnie.
Yes, it was.
Like,
winters are not very good.
Yeah, it was like, I mean, in the middle of February, Toronto's not great either. They had the NBA All-Star game here one year, and people are like, fuck this. It's so cold. And I'm with it. The stadium's awesome in Minneapolis. Never have a Super Bowl again. It just makes people upset. Yeah. It's too cold.
Yeah, I don't think we'll get it again. I think we had it one time with the Metrodome. It kind of just appeases us up here once we get a new stadium, and that'll be it. No one will ever come back.
And listen, I'm out on New York for hosting it too. Like I don't. You just want to have it in a place where people can go out and hang. Like Miami would be a perfect place to have it. If people cared in Miami, it would be the perfect place because the new Atlanta one. It's Atlanta this year. That should be really awesome because you can go walk outdoors and not have frostbite. So when I'm going out smoking, it's not like, oh, good God, this is awful. And I'm pretty sure in Georgia you can just smoke everywhere anyway. You can smoke in the Atlanta airport, which is like the only airport outside of like the Iceland airport that you can still smoke in these days. So I really appreciate that.
I did notice that. I was just in the Atlanta airport a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't too bad. It's not nearly as bad as the Miami airport, which is the worst on earth.
I don't know if I've ever been to the Miami airport. At least Atlanta works as a hub from like all those international flights, so it kind of has to be somewhat nice because there's too many planes and too many foreign people going through it that you don't need some guy from the Netherlands complaining about how awful everything is in Atlanta.
That's right. That's right.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me on Twitter at the PME, same as Instagram. The cheat sheet for my betting and one and dones will be up on my Facebook page, facebook.com/thepme on Wednesday afternoon. Live chat, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time on the DraftKings YouTube channel. You'll be able to check that out on demand as well. And fantasynational.com. All the tools and running stats you need: custom model, mixed condition, event simulator, lineup generator, ownership projections. You can go player by player, look at their stats from any time that Strokes Gained has ever been released. You can see what they did in that tournament. Full course breakdown, tournament history, everything you need to help yourself get going. $1.9 million have been won by members since March on fantasynational.com. Join today, win the 100K. Let's go for $2 million. See if we can get this done. That'd be a pretty good year for everyone who's involved. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Check out my cheat sheet on DKPlaybook.com and sub to the pod. Thank you for watching. Good luck at the Northern Trust. I'll see you next time.
Mayo experience! Experience!